Hi everyone, I'm Dutchess. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dutchess. This is my channel, Dutchess Divinity, and we do lots of stuff here, but today I'm going to tell you some channeling I've done. I'm also going to show you my cat, because she just came over to say hi. Say hi, Corn. Oh, she do a big stretch. Okay, so today I want to talk about twin flames and their connection to the 60s and 70s. So if you feel like you're on a twin flame journey, something that I have personally channeled for myself and many other twins who have found me is that a lot of us had incarnated during the 60s and 70s during like the summer of love. We were a part of that. Like that wasn't the moment we incarnated, right? Like we were old enough to be a part of it, but we incarnated for that movement because what we're doing today, bringing in the new earth, is exactly what we were trying to do then, right? That was when we were fighting for civil rights and we were fighting for equality amongst different races, amongst for women to get more rights as well. There was a lot of injustices that were happening beneath the surface. Those injustices still happen today. They're just swept under the rug, but there was a lot that was coming to the surface that we were pulling out from underneath the surface, and we were forcing to be looked at, and we were forcing to be changed, and we were intentionally trying to bring in the new earth. Now, a lot of us were taken out during this time. A lot of us were targeted, okay? So I have several clients who, I'll be very honest too, a lot of my clients that I get as far as twins go have some sort of connection to high money, a lot of status, organized crime sometimes, right? Because we kind of know those two things go hand in hand, right? If you got a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of status, you've usually compromised your integrity in some way to get to that point, or your ancestors did to get you to that point, right? There's been some sort of integral compromise to get you there in the world that we live in today. So I have, my nose is itching. That means what for some of you, someone's coming back into your life. Mercury retrograde is right around the corner if you're watching this in real time, so take that as it resonates. But anyway, so a lot of the clients I attract in this life have connections to, the upper echelon, to these high status positions that are generally connected to handlers and organized crime. And my life and my personal experience is no exception to that. But anyway, so a lot of us incarnated right outside of these contracts, right? So a lot of the people who find me, and if you are having an experience like this, you can feel free to book a twin flame reading with me. I'd be happy to help you. But most of my clients are not necessarily, them or their twins are not in it right now. Like they're not in Hollywood. They're not in these more high level face. They're not the face, right? They're in the background. They're in the background. They're the handlers. They're working for these people in some way. They're the families that you don't know their names because they're so rich that they don't have to be the face, They're low-level celebrities. They have, so they're not quite in the Hollywood cult, right? They have ties to it, but they're right outside of it, but they're still linked to it. Right? They're still linked to it. They're not quite out of this contract. And Elizabeth April has a really great video talking about star seeds and the contracts that we've generally escaped connected to trafficking and SRA, really. So I'll link that in the comments below. But that's one coinciding experience I continue to have amongst the twins I attract. And a lot of these twins that I've attracted into my life were alive during the 60s, 70s period of time, right? And we were targeted specifically. So I have one client who was targeted specifically and she was murdered during that time, and her twin did not die in the same way, but died shortly after because mission failed, right? Like, so, kind of like a video game, right? It's like, there was not really a good way to come back out of that. Now, some people, I have met twins who there's a huge age gap between them because one of the twins passed and the other one, instead of deciding to restart, just continued to push forward. And then that person who passed away reincarnates, and then they find each other once they're both in the adult phase of their life. I can't really say whether it's right or wrong if you're an adult, like, you know, you're a 30-year-old person dating someone 20 years older than you. I can't really tell you if that's right or wrong. I can tell you I wouldn't do it. It's not my thing. That's not my shtick. I would not be doing that. But I can't really, if you're a grown person and a grown adult, I can't really tell you what I think of that. But I have met clients who believe that as well. And I believe them too. But so... yeah, and also I was just speaking to a different twin recently, and they had said that they had a vision of themselves during the 60s and 70s in the car with their twin, and they got in a car accident and died. And so basically what I'm here to tell you is we were picked off. We were picked off one by one, twin by twin, right? And then it didn't really do anything. All it did was hold us back, set us back. All it did was delay the new earth coming in and create a lot more trouble and problems for us to have to like reincarnate back into, because we had collected the trauma of our murders before we died. So then that was more karma and trauma we had to move through. But it's not going to stop the wave. The new earth is coming. So I've talked about this previously. When I was alive during the 60s and 70s, I was a big festival girl, and my twin was there with me, and I was a dancey girl like I am today. You know, I was dancing. I had this bright natural red hair, like orangey natural red hair, and I'd wear it up in a beehive sometimes. I'd wear the go-go boots. I was getting down in the festival circuit, right? And so while I'm getting down in the festival circuit, I ended up getting trafficked, because what easier of a place to traffic somebody in the 60s and 70s than at a festival where everybody's hitchhiking or doing drugs or, you know, just trusts everyone. It's the summer of love, right? So a lot of us were trafficked at these festivals. Trafficked and murdered. And in my experience, I was trafficked and I was brought somewhere to have my murder sold on the dark web. Now you might be saying, Dutch, what the hell are you thinking? Back in the 60s and 70s, they had computers, but they were the size of an entire room, and they weren't like they are today. That's true, but the government is always several years ahead of us in technology, and they just withhold it from us to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind, right? And who are the worst human traffickers of them all? The government. The world leaders. This is the organized crime I'm speaking on. The status, the power. How do you think they get it? People are currency to them. People are currency. How many times can you sell a drug? Once. How many times can you fucking sell a person? Makes me want to rip all my skin off and burst into flames. It's so upsetting, the thought of it. Yet this is their livelihood. This is their product. I do not consent. I am not a product, and neither are you. You don't consent either, I don't think, anyway. But, so the part of my life I saw, I didn't see myself getting abducted. I saw myself fucking cutting a rug at the festivals, and then the next thing I knew, I was in this like underground area. It was very dark. The walls were all black. There was like two-way mirrors lining the top of the room, and there was like fake grass on the ground, like turf, like fake plastic grass on the ground, and a big black tarp over that. A lot of black everywhere, and there was just this giant like I can see it perfectly when I look in my mind's eye right now. There was a giant camcorder in my face, like the older ones, like the big ones, was just like in my face, like this close to my face. And I had this like saw trap on my face that was like connected to my jaw, like literally like the movie Saw. It was connected to my jaw, and it had this timer going off, and my hands like arms, it was like I was in an electric chair, right? I was like strapped down my arms and legs, and this thing was gonna go off on my head. And so my soul hopped out of my body real quick, like right when it was counting down. And I watched it from an aerial view, but for whatever reason, it felt, I was happy that like my soul didn't experience it in the body. Like it felt better to have my soul experience it outside of the body than if I was in the body. So I had the aerial perspective, very much like dissociation, you know, when we talk about in psychology. That was like what happened. And so I have jaw problems from this. I have neck problems from this. I had other issues in this life. I got in a car accident. Like, there's other stuff that has happened that has caused this pain in me. But I also know that that has a lot to do with why the pain won't subside. Because I'm moving through karmic energy and trying to shift that into, transmute it into something else and heal it so I don't have to suffer with it for the rest of this life. But anyway, that was my story. And then I actually never channeled how my twin died. I was so caught up in like the horrors of my own death that I never actually channeled how my twin died in that life. Oh, they just showed me as like some like overdose or something. But yeah, they're showing me him at like a med tent overdosing. They just like, cause his soul knew. It was like, I feel like they got him super, I could have been on drugs too, but I feel like they got him really drugged out and then took me. And then he ended up overdosing in the tent. It was like his soul knew I was gone, so he dipped too. But I've talked about this before. I have memories of us in like this overhang area when we were waiting to reincarnate in the 90s, of us like in like the clouds, kind of like cherubs, like watching over the 80s and being like, it's almost time, we're going back, you know, like kind of preparing before we reincarnated back. But what I wanted to talk about in this video is I had one of my clients who did pass away during the 60s and 70s, somewhere in there. She believes she was an actress, and she believes that her twin was in a band. And I'm not going to tell you like the details of what I channeled for her, because obviously that's personal. But she asked me about, and she channeled that herself, that they were actresses and that he was in a band. She asked me about the Sharon Tate murders because she was just getting the message. She was like, I don't know what it means. I just feel like you need to channel it. So I did. So, I mean, I assume if you've made it this far in the video, you're into like at least things outside of your scope of understanding and like going down rabbit holes. And yeah, so basically what happened was Charles Manson was a product of MK Ultra. So if you don't know what MK Ultra is, it's trauma-based mind control. I would highly suggest going down a rabbit hole on that. It started in Nazi Germany. It was one of the experiments the Nazis did on the Jewish people. And then it's called Project Paperclip, I believe. And then they brought the Nazis over. The Nuremberg trials, like, really... I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. Let me say that, guys. First of all, I'm just channel. I don't know if any of this is right. I'm just like a 31-year-old girl channeling stuff. So I'm not the end-all be-all. I'm not saying I'm right all the time. I'm not saying I am like God and I am the Word of God. I'm just telling you I'm an open channel. I'm right a lot of the time, and this is what I channeled. So I channeled it, and I've read that the Nuremberg trials like really weren't even real, and that they just took all those Nazis and brought them over to America. So, which would make a lot of sense with all these freaky ass studies and shit that they're doing, and like fucking like the shit that they were doing to the Beagles and shit with FAUCI, how he was like, he's just done, he put live dogs' heads in to get eaten up by like bugs, like flesh-eating bugs, as an experiment, and like that's the guy that's like the leader and like protocol of what to do if like health goes bad all over the globe. Like, I don't want that guy in charge of anything. In fact, straight to jail for hurting the puppies, okay? In the name of what? Science? bitch, that ain't science. That's your twisted, freaky ass weirdness, okay? So get the fuck out. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Okay, so yeah, MK Ultra. So this is a form of trauma-based mind control. Basically, they split your brain, they split the psyche. It's the same thing that happens when you have a lot of trauma in real life. When you have a lot of trauma and are not part of an actual trauma-based mind control program, your psyche begins to split. And when it splits enough, this is when it creates multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder, which everyone on TikTok thinks they have. As a girl who's actually been in and out of like the therapeutic and psychiatric systems, an actual person with dissociative identity disorder is like very rare, and it's also like it's not something, it's not mistakable. It's a very severe, serious, rare condition that your brain has been broken so freaking much that you've had to create all these different alters. Now, I'm working on something right now on learning how to manifest through creating different alters without having to break the psyche. So I'm going to come up with that class eventually. I'm working on it right now. I'm like in the throes. I'm down the rabbit hole, but I just wanted to get some information out. So basically what they did was they put people on tons of acid, and if you've ever done psychedelics, I'm sure you can understand that, like, if somebody was going out of their way to traumatize you on psychedelics, it would surely break your mind into several different fragments. And we see a lot of this. Like, I could go so deep on, like, the Illuminati stuff, on all the imagery we see of the fragmentation, the symbolism. I know it all. I don't talk about it because it's like, I don't know, it's never been, I have a lot of expertise in it, but I just have focused my energy elsewhere. But I could talk more about it if you guys want me to. But so basically, they fragment the mind with psychedelics. They put them through these vigorous different rituals and like messed up stuff. And by the end of it, they have a very malleable, like Plato-like brain because they're so traumatized, they're so confused because they're whacked out on these psychedelics, and they're opening them up to other dimensions, not only in their mind but in time and space, that then can become these like sleeping soldiers, and they can create these different altars, and they can wake up the altars without the host. The host takes a back seat, and the different altars wake up to get them through. Now, this is honestly something I feel like I experienced when I was in this program, this governmental run program. I felt like they were trying to do MK Ultra on me. Now that I know what it is, I didn't know what it was at the time, obviously without the psychedelics, but with the same tactics, which I can talk about that in the future. But also just the fact that I've been through so much that my brain just kept fragmenting, and when I was really starting to hit rock bottom, they were trying to tell me I had dissociative identity disorder, which I think there is probably parts of me that were created to pull me out of a hole in order for me to survive, but I don't know that, I just think my host has regained control, but at the same time I'm an open channel, so I still have all this access to not only these other parts of self, but these other dimensions, right? So that's a really quick surface level information on MK Ultra. So basically, Charles Manson, when you do the research on him, just like how Hitler wanted to be an artist, remember how everyone was like, Hitler tried to get into art school, how different would history be if he did get into art school? So Charles Manson wanted to be a musical artist. And it is no secret that MK Ultra mind control and torture and ritualistic sex is a part of Hollywood and all of that stuff. So it was like he basically, that's what they mean when they say like sell your soul. It's like you're not really selling your soul, you're selling the vessel, right? You're selling your soul in the sense that you're letting it, the host, go to the back seat, and you're letting other things come in based on what your handlers want to put in you, right? So he wanted to be a musician. He went to sign the contract, sell his soul essentially, and he did not become a musician because for whatever reason his mind was so malleable that they were able to create some sort of cult leader out of him. Now, it's really fascinating because it's also soul crushing. Like, if you're really into celebrities, learning about all the different like levels of the atrocities is upsetting. So just know that before you go down that rabbit hole. But like Jim Morrison, I love the Doors. I love the Doors. But he was a plant. Like, he was an MK Ultra plant. He came out of like a lab. The whole song Hotel California is all about where they put the celebrities, where they break them, or every time one of them breaks their programming, right? Like Demi Lovato or Kanye West. This is not me being an apologist for either of them. They're both horrible human beings at this point, in my opinion. But can you blame them? They've been in this since, like, how long? How long have they been in these horrific systems? How long have they been handled? How long has their psyche been broken? They break their programming, and then where do they send them? They send them to rehab, right? What is rehab? Rehab is the reconfiguring of their mind. It's the re-breaking of their mind, the MK Ultra of their mind, right? Shoot. He thought he was signing up to be a musician, went and got MK Ultra'd. They realized they could create a huge monster out of this guy because his mind was super malleable, and I just saw 2111. And so they created a cult leader out of him. And so he basically got MK Ultra'd and turned into something else. And then he was able to collect these followers, right? And I was saying about Jim Morrison being a plant. He's like, his father is like it's so weird. I would have to look it up, but it's a rabbit hole I went down previously. But his father was like wealthy and connected, and he was like he was different until he went to the Hotel California, and then he came out the Lizard King and all this shit. And it's like, he also had like a cult-like following. A lot of these rock stars did. It was just different. But anyway, that's something I'd have to do more research on before I speak on it like fully. But I guess I could channel it. But I just keep getting distracted. Sorry. So, ADD. Woo! Anyway, so they MK Ultra'd the shit out of Charles Manson, and I'm not excusing his behavior, and I'm not saying that, like, oh, like, it wasn't him, it was the MK Ultra. No, it was that guy. Like, it was that guy. I'm not saying it wasn't, but they MK Ultra'd him. He gathered a bunch of followers, and the whole helter-skelter thing, how he was, when you ask him about it, he says, oh, it's nothing, I just wanted to say something witchy because that scares people. No, he was instructed to do these things. He was programmed to do these things. The Sharon Tate murders were a sacrifice, right? And now I'm going to get really out there, but if you know, you know. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, then you'll get it. Right before C-19, the Amazon conveniently caught on fire, right? That was a huge sacrifice. You remember how many animals and people and plants were suffering during that? Not to mention, there was an indigenous group of people that had been fighting years to protect the Amazon against these people who wanted to build on it. Very suspicious, huh? And then they won their lawsuit. Within 13 hours of them winning their lawsuit, the exact area of land where they had won the lawsuit over was on fire. So that was not only them completely disregarding the law, liberty and justice, but it was also a sacrifice. Pain, suffering, and bloodshed, and homes destroyed of the animals, the plants destroyed, like it's spitting on the indigenous spirits of the land. Then Kobe and his daughter died. Another sacrifice. Divine masculine, divine feminine, sacrificing an innocent, the daughter. Right? Then the Super Bowl happened. The Super Bowl is the biggest human trafficking day of the year. I hate to break it to you. So many people have come out about the underground tunnels and just how much trafficking there is. And if you watch the performances at any of these big events, like Shakira did her performance that year in 2020, it was rough. If you go back and watch it, she's like got herself tied up and stuff, like she's trafficked. Even her most recent one at, like, I don't watch any of those award shows, but I did watch her performance, and she was dancing next to one of those crates that they traffic people in. Like, why is that the set? Like, why is that in your decorations on the set of your dance of your dance number, of your dance and musical number. Like, why is it one of those carts and crates that you attach to a truck or that you put on a boat that's supposed to be moving product, but they're literally moving people? And you see it firsthand in Sound of Freedom. You see a lot of this shit firsthand in Sound of Freedom, which is why that was like, oh, it's a QAnon conspiracy. Oh my God, it's so political. There was not a lick of politics in Sound of Freedom. The reason I didn't realize just how, I mean, I knew the media was evil, but I didn't realize just how evil the media is until they started coming for Sound of Freedom, because it's literally Taken. It's the movie Taken, like, but different, but more scary, because it's like a little girl, not, and even so, the other one's horrible too, but no politics. Were there any politics in Taken? No. No, there weren't. There weren't any in this one either. So, yeah, it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. The Amazon fire, Kobe and his daughter, Super Bowl, C-19. The entire globe locks down. That was all one big sacrifice, right? And we have to ask ourselves, too, what the hell were those Hawaiian fires? Sacrifice? Yeah, to me. And that's a whole nother video. Talking about that is a whole nother video. Talking about the hurricanes and the controlled weather is a whole nother video. But anyway, the helter-skelter thing was a sacrifice. So what I channeled is Sharon Tate was a twin. She was a twin. What I channeled was she was a really light-bodied and angelic energy, really special, positive, love, light energy. And she was a twin. And they sent him and his goons out to murder her as a big sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, because they were writing in blood on the walls and everything. This was a major blood sacrifice to bring in the harvesting and picking off of the twins of the time. So, yeah, and then he ended up just being like this easy fall guy, right? He sold his soul thinking he was going to be a musician, ended up being a cult leader, and was just broken, mentally broken. You know what I'm realizing too? He had a swastika tattooed on his third eye when he got to the jail. Somebody did that for him. I wonder if that was a part of his programming, because if you notice, a lot of these MK Ultra programmed people eventually end up like being very Nazi-like, right? So like Tila Tequila just started all of a sudden being anti-Semitic. Kanye West, all of a sudden anti-Semitic. You know what I mean? Like, and if we go back to Project Paperclip and bringing the Nazis over to America to do this work, it's all kind of lining up, isn't it? It's all lining up, kind of. Ooh. So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light. It's just all really uncomfortable and it all connects. But I'm crazy, right? I'm the conspiracy theorist. I'm the crazy one. But I just have eyes to see and ears to hear. That's all. But anyway, so yeah, that was what I've channeled. Is that was a huge blood sacrifice, and then they started picking us off one by one. But guess what, baby? We're back, and they can't stop us now. So that's it. I think that's all I have for this video. Please leave comments of what you think, and if there's other subjects I touched on that you want me to speak about more, I'd be happy to do that. But yeah, just let me know. Alright, I love you guys very much. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope I see you again sometime. Alright, bye-bye. And I will see you another time. Okay, bye.